Hello everyone, I'm Mike from PokePhenomenal, and I'm back with another Nuzlocke challenge. Before we get into the video, there is something that I think all of you should know. If you've been enjoying our content, that's because Andrew has been hard at work doing the bulk of the recording and the editing. The quality of our channel continues to grow because of his work behind the scenes, so I wanted to shout him out here. Now as for me, I'm just some bozo, so don't expect this video to have the same production value. However, I think we can still have some fun because this challenge is a bit different from your typical hardcore Nuzlocke. While we're not going to take credit for coming up with this idea, we haven't seen a video for this particular challenge before. It's hard to come up with a snappy name, but after some careful deliberation, we've settled on the Sequencelocke. If you guys can think of a better name, definitely let us know in the comments. So I'm sure you're all wondering what a Sequencelocke is. Basically, we'll be playing a normal hardcore Nuzlocke, meaning our standard rules apply. I'll show them here, and a list will be included in the description. However, the challenge of the Sequencelocke comes from the limitation that once we have a full party of 6, we cannot switch any party members for Pokemon we subsequently catch. Also, if we need to replace a party member, we must replace it with the next Pokemon in our box in sequential order. One of the most important aspects of strategy in a Nuzlocke is being able to build your team in order to deal with the various threats you'll face during the run. For example, let's say you have good taste and chose the grass starter at the beginning of your run, and your next gym battle is against a fire-type trainer. However, because the gym leader is a complete buffoon, he's decided to set up shop on an island that you need to surf to, meaning you're guaranteed a water encounter on the way there. When it comes time to fight the gym leader, not only would you want to box your grass starter so you don't unnecessarily risk it in battle, but you're probably going to put that new water encounter on your team to deal with the fire types. The purpose of the Sequencelocke is to force the player to battle with their team as it is, and remove the ability to customize your team as needed. While there are ways to make this challenge even more difficult, such as removing the ability to switch around your party Pokemon, since this is my first attempt at this challenge, I want to keep things a bit more casual, and will allow myself to switch my active team's order as needed. If you are interested in seeing us play different variations of this challenge, be sure to let us know in the comments. As a way to spice things up a bit, we're going to be playing Pokemon Platinum. You rarely see people appreciate Gen 4, but that's what I'm here for, to give a voice to those who need it. With all that said, let's jump in and see how it goes. We begin our journey by naming our player character. Because I recently got back into Bleach with the anime's return for the 1000-year Blood War arc, I decided to name my character Ichigo. I'm sorry Andrew, but it's too late, you cannot stop me. We then name our rival Aizen, because when I look at this kid, I see a cold, calculating manipulator, hell-bent on using those around him to ascend to a higher plane of existence. Moving on, because my trainer ID ends in 0, I use a random number generator to choose my starter and get Turtwig. On Route 201, we meet Professor Rowan and get our Turtwig, and in poetic fashion, name her Rukia. After getting Pokeballs from Dawn, we start getting our encounters. On Route 202, we catch Uryu, the Starly. We then head north into Jubilife City, and onto Route 204, where we catch Orihime, the Badoo. In the Ravage Path, we catch Yororichi, the Zubat. On Route 203, we fight Aizen, who isn't much of a challenge given we have 5 Pokemon at this point. After beating Aizen, we catch Kisuke, the Shinx. We then go through the Oreburgh Gate and arrive in Oreburgh City. From there, we enter the Oreburgh Mine to catch Rangiku, the Geodude, and also encounter Roark, Rock and Stone brother. On Route 207, we pick up Kenpachi, the Machop, and begin training up for the first gym battle, with Uryu evolving into Staravia. Sometimes before battles, Andrew likes to talk about his strategy going into a fight. I'd like to incorporate this bit as well, so here I'm going to show you a detailed explanation of my strategy against Roark. Step 1, send in Rukia. Step 2, click Razor Leaf. Step 3, Profit. Yeah, this one wasn't much of a thinker. With the Coal Badge in hand, we head towards Floroma Town, but on the way there, I remember that I didn't get an encounter in the Oreburgh Gate, so I turn back to catch Tatsuki, the Psyduck. Back in Jubilife City, we encounter Team Galactic for the first time, as they try to intimidate Professor Rowan, but the old man is having none of it. Dawn and I beat up the Grunts, and we make our way through the Ravage Path to arrive in Floroma Town. We then go to the Valley Windworks, where we catch Chad, the Shellos. Kisuke evolves into Luxio, and after defeating some Galactic Grunts and obtaining the key to the Windworks, we're forced to fight Mars, whose Perugly will be the first real obstacle of this run. Rangiku defeats her Zubat with no real issue, but she does get poisoned. The Perugly comes in, and though Rock Smash does decent damage, we need to switch out, so we send in Rukia, hoping she can tank a few hits. 2 Razor Leafs gets Perugly in the red, so we decide to switch again and send out Kisuke to finish the fight. With Team Galactic dealt with, our next destination is Eterna City. But first, I spend a bit of time in the flower fields, reminiscing about the simple pleasures of my youth and how they contrast with the harsh reality of the present day. That aside, we then head on to Route 205 to catch Ikaku the Bidoof, before making our way through Eterna Forest. As I'm allowing myself to choose whether I get an encounter in a given area, so long as the other rules of the challenge still apply, I decide to hold off on getting an encounter here so that we can guarantee a Ghastly later in the run. We then arrive in Eterna City and prepare to fight Gardenia. Before the battle, Rukia evolves into Grotle, and Yoruichi becomes a Golbat, at which point we're ready to start the fight. Gardenia immediately puts up more of a fight than I expect, as her Turtwig survives a wing attack and sets up Reflect. We take the Turtwig down, but wing attack does little damage to Cherrim, giving her the chance to set up Leech Seed. Reflect wears off, and we're able to do good damage with wing attack. The Magical Leaf and Leech Seed get Uryu low enough that we decide to switch into Rukia. A bite isn't able to finish Cherrim off, which lets Gardenia heal and whittle Rukia's health down with Grass Knot. By the time the Cherrim faints, we have no choice but to switch again. After Gardenia sends in Rose Raid, we switch into Yoruichi and take it down with Wing Attack. After earning the Forest Badge, we need to deal with Team Galactic in the Galactic Building. While Jupiter isn't as scary as Mars, her Skunk Tank is still a threat, so we approach this fight with a bit of caution. We take down her Zubat with Yoruichi, and when Skunk Tank comes out, we stay in and go for Wing Attack, which does little damage. She retaliates with a crit Night Slash, which forces us to switch into Rangiku, who tanks a Night Slash and gets poisoned before landing a strong Magnitude. However, this isn't enough, and she heals with her Citrus Berry. We switch into Rukia, hoping to finish her with Return, but she isn't able to do it, and so we make a final switch into Uryu, who takes her down with a crit Wing Attack. Now that that's over, we head to Route 211 to catch Ganju the Chingling. We also get the bicycle and head down the cycling road. Before we proceed further, we get our encounter on Route 206, a Gligar who we name Mimichika, before entering Mount Cornet, where we pick up a Clefairy named Yachiru. After exiting the mountain, we try for an encounter on Route 208. Somehow, I actually managed to get the routes encounter, but it uses Teleport, so alas, no Gallade for us. A little disappointed, we enter Hearthome City, where there's nothing much for us to do but prepare to fight Fantina. In the process, Orihime evolves into Roselia, Yoruichi evolves into Golbat, and Rangiku evolves into Graveler. These additions to the team give me some modicum of hope against Fantina, who is terrifying at this point in the game. Starting the fight, we lead with Rukia and get the flinch with Bite. Fantina heals, but 2 more bites are enough to take Duskull down. She then sends out her ace Mismagius, and goes for Confuse Ray. Rukia hits through the confusion and does good damage, but Mismagius heals with her Citrus Berry. She then lands a Shadow Ball and Rukia hits herself in confusion. We decide to switch into Kisuke, but he takes a lot of damage from Shadow Ball, so we switch again into Uryu to avoid taking damage. Mismagius hits a Psybeam, after which we almost take her out with a crit Wing Attack. Unfortunately, Fantina heals and hits Uryu with another Psybeam that confuses him. On the Pride of the Quincy's, Uryu hits through the confusion and gets Mismagius into the red. We then switch into Yoruichi to take her down. Finally, she sends out Haunter, but Yoruichi defeats her with Bite, earning us the Relic Badge. After beating Fantina, we head towards Salacion Town, but we're forced to fight Aizen before we can progress further. We start with Kisuke to take down his Staravia, but take a lot of damage from Endeavor in the process. He then sends out Weasel, and we switch into Orihime. Quick Attack doesn't do much, and we take him down with Giga Drain. He then sends out Monferno, and we switch into Yoruichi. He hits a weak Flame Wheel, which unfortunately gets the burn and lowers our attack. After another Flame Wheel, we decide to switch into Uryu. We get burned by Flame Wheel again, but we're still able to finish him with a crit Wing Attack. He finally sends out Roselia, and we switch into Rukia. Although he paralyzes us, we take him down with 2 returns. After beating Aizen, we enter Route 209 to catch Ishin the Duskull, also picking up Ryukin the Noctowl on Route 210 and Masaki the Meryl on Route 215. After traversing the rainy path, we arrive in Veilstone City, where, when leveling up to fight Maylene, Rukia evolves into Torterra and Kisuke into Luxray. Maylene isn't much of a challenge, as our team is already well equipped to defeat her. Uryu takes down her Meditite with Aerial Ace, while it only takes 2 to knock out her Machoke. When Lucario finally comes out, we switch into Rukia, who, despite taking some damage and becoming paralyzed from Force Bomb, finishes the fight with a crit Earthquake. After the battle, Uryu evolves into Staraptor. A bit late on that one, pal. With the Cobble Badge secured, we're back to confronting Team Galactic and need to make our way to Pastoria City. On Route 214, we encounter a Houndour, but it uses Roar and voids the route. However, we immediately catch a different one at the Valor Lakefront, and name her Momo. On Route 213, we catch Soifon the Weasel and arrive in Pastoria City, where we're forced to battle Aizen again before we can take on Crash Awake. We lead with Kisuke against his Staravia and take him down with a crit Spark, after which his Weasel goes down to the same. Next up is Monferno, and we decide to stay in and go for Spark, which does decent damage, and even get one more before needing to switch out. We send in Uryu and tank some Flame Wheels before finishing with Aerial Ace. Finally, Aizen sends out Roselia, who goes down to an aerial ace. With that out of the way, it's time to face Wake. I'm not too worried going into the fight, given we have Rukia, Orihime, and Kisuke. We start with Kisuke against his Gyarados and quickly take him down with Spark, but when he sends out Quagsire, I have to switch out, switching to Orihime and taking it out with Giga Drain. Finally, the Floatzel comes in, and we keep Orihime in for Giga Drain. But Floatzel manages to land a powerful Ice Fang that actually freezes us, and we need to get Orihime out of there. We don't have many great options to switch into, so we decide to switch into Kisuke, who tanks a Crunch. We go for Spark, hoping Kisuke will survive Floatzel's attack, but he's taken down by Brine, after which we send in Yoruichi in the hopes of outspeeding Floatzel and avenging Kisuke. She's faster, and is able to land a fly that does good damage, but Floatzel heals with its Citrus Berry. Yoruichi tanks an Ice Fang and goes for another fly, but it misses and Floatzel hits another Ice Fang to get a second freeze. We switch over to Uryu, who eats an Ice Fang and a Brine, before landing a fly that almost finishes Floatzel off. We go for Quick Attack, but Wake heals Floatzel back to full, and not wanting to sacrifice anyone else, we decide to go for a risky play by switching into Rukia, knowing full well that Floatzel will outspeed and go for a quad-effective Ice Fang. Most likely thanks to Uryu's Intimidate, Rukia is miraculously able to tank a Brine, followed by the Ice Fang, and finishes him off with a Razor Leaf. That fight was almost disastrous, and very clearly demonstrated our team's glaring weakness to ice. I'm sure that won't come into play down the road. We mourn the loss of our friend Kisuke and, with our first death, add the next member to our team, Kenpachi the Machop, quickly leveling him up to match his teammates. With the Fen badge in our possession, we meet with Wake and Aizen outside the Great Marsh, only for a Galactic Grunt to set off a bomb and flee the scene. Because we are apparently the only trainer in Sinnoh capable of taking on this literal terrorist organization, we chase the Grunt to the Valor Lakefront and defeat him. After this, we happen to run into Cynthia, who gives me the secret potion to help the Psyduck on Route 210, and then use everyone's favorite HMD Fog to make our way through Route 10 and to Celestic Town. When we speak with the town elder, she informs us of Team Galactic's presence, and after taking down the Galactic Grunt outside the ruins, the elder tells us to explore them while we're here. Inside the ruins, we're confronted by the Galactic boss Cyrus, who challenges us to battle. We start with Kenpachi and take down his Sneasel with Revenge, after which he brings in his Golbat. We switch over to Rangiku and go for Rock Throw, but he lands a Supersonic and confuses us. We stay in hoping to break through the confusion, but it's too much for Rangiku and she falls in battle. We then send in Yoruichi and, after a bit of back and forth, we're able to take down the Golbat and get our revenge. Finally, he sends out Murkrow, and we switch into Uryu to try and defeat it with close combat, but he just barely survives it. We quickly switch into Rukia and manage to finish the fight. Our first outing with Cyrus was not as clean as I would have hoped, but hey, I'm sure we'll be better equipped to handle him in the future. It's never easy saying goodbye to a Graveler, but this is where Rangiku's journey ends. After sending her to the next world, we add Tatsuki to the team and level her up. After getting the Surf HM from the Elder, we return to Jubilife City and head west to Candice City. Once we arrive, we have another battle with Aizen, leading with Uryu against his Staraptor. He tries to set up double teams, but we take him out with a fly and a crit Aerial Ace. He sends out his Heracross next, which we take down with Aerial Ace, and he swings into Infernape. Uryu tanks 2 Brick Breaks before taking Infernape down with 2 Aerial Aces of his own. Aizen then sends out Floatzel, and we switch into Orihime, who tanks some Swifts before finishing it off with a Giga Drain. Roselia comes out last, and we switch into Yoruichi to finish it with a Wing Attack. After beating Aizen, we fish for our encounter in the nearby harbor and catch Yamamoto the Magikarp. After taking a quick trip to Iron Island for the Strength HM, we come back to face Byron. Like his son before him, we sweep Byron's team with Rukia. After obtaining the Mind Badge, we meet with Aizen, Dawn, and Professor Rowan at the library, but our conversation is interrupted by more of Team Galactic's shenanigans. Being the responsible adult that he is, Rowan asks us to go to Lake Valor to investigate, and we make our way there to battle Saturn. Yoruichi takes down his Golbat with Fly and Wing Attack, after which he sends out Bronzer, forcing us to switch into Rukia. It takes a few bites, but we're able to finish off the Bronzer and, after tanking a Poison Jab from his Toxicroak, we hit it with an Earthquake and end the fight. With Saturn defeated, we head to Lake Verity to help Dawn out against Mars. Same as with Saturn, we take down her Golbat with Yoruichi, before switching into Rukia on the Bronzer. We do some damage with Bite, but after an Iron Defense and Confusion damage, we switch into Tatsuki, who finishes the fight with a Crit Surf. Finally, she sends out Perugly, and though we go for Surf, she hits a fake out for the flinch. We then switch into Kenpachi and are immediately put to sleep. Because we don't wake up, we're forced to switch into Uryu, who tanks a Slash and dishes out good damage with an Aerial Ace. We then dodge Hypnosis to finish her off with close combat. With Mars defeated, we need to make our way to Lake Acuity to check on Aizen, and so we return to Mount Cornet to traverse its caverns and arrive at the Snowy Path. Here, we catch a Snorunt I named Shirayuki. We continue our journey through the blizzard and find the rock climb HM, after which we catch Omida the Snover on Route 217, and Nell the Swinub at the Acuity lakefront. Finally, we arrive in Snow Point City. In order to get to Aizen, we need to obtain the 7th gym badge. Our team is pretty weak to ice, but I'm hoping that Kenpachi can really shine here. He tanks an Aerial Ace from her Sneasel before taking it down with her Revenge, and she switches into Frostlass. Because we foolishly got rid of Foresight earlier in the run, we're forced to switch into Totsuki as she sets up double teams, though we still manage to hit Surf for decent damage. Frostlass then lands a Shadow Ball that lowers my special defense, and also manages to avoid Surf. Surprisingly, Candice actually switches Frostlass out for Abomasnow, which takes a crit Surf that does a surprising amount of damage. With no good move options, we decide to switch into Uryu, but tragedy strikes when he goes down to a crit Focus Blast. We then send in Yoruichi and take Abomasnow down with a Fly. Candice brings out Frostless again, and we go for Bite, which does some damage before she heals from her Citrus Berry. Thankfully, we get the flinch and are able to take her out with a crit Bite. Lastly, she sends out Piloswine, and we switch back into Kenpachi and tank an Avalanche. Although I assumed that we would be faster, I'm proven wrong when she hits an Earthquake that takes Kenpachi down. Sending out Totsuki, we finish the fight and avenge Kenpachi with Surf. While that fight could have gone a lot worse, it is still sad to lose 2 team members, especially Uryu, who's been with us since the beginning, but all I can do is move forward, and so we add Chad and Ikaku to the team and level them up. With the Icicle badge in our possession, we can now use Rock Climb, and so I head back to Route 210 to get the hidden shiny stone there, and finally evolve Orihime into Roserade. Heading back to Snow Point City, we reach Lake Acuity and find Aizen just as he's being defeated by Jupiter. She warns us not to confront Team Galactic at their headquarters in Veilstone City, so we immediately head to Veilstone and storm the HQ. After wading through the Sea of Grunts, it's time to battle Cyrus again. We start with Totsuki against his Sneasel, but then decide to switch into Ikaku. He does some good damage with Rock Smash before going down to Slash, and we then send in Chad, who tanks a crit Ice Punch before finishing him off with Surf. Cyrus sends out Crobat, and we decide to stay in to sack Chad and get a clean switch, but he surprises me by dodging an Air Cutter and landing a Surf. He then survives one more Air Cutter and lands another Surf before he's finally taken out in our next turn. We bring in Totsuki and tank a Poison Fang before taking him down with a Confusion. Finally, Honchkrow comes out, and we land a crit Surf that almost takes him down before he retaliates with a powerful Drill Peck. However, Totsuki survives this and finishes him off with Surf. Defeated once again, Cyrus leaves to enact his plans at Spear Pillar, but our work isn't over yet, as we still have to defeat Saturn in order to save the Lake Trio. We lead with Totsuki against his Golbat and go for Zen Headbutt, but unfortunately it misses and we're poisoned by Poison Fang. We go for Zen Headbutt again and do good damage, tank another Poison Fang, and finish her off with a Confusion. When Bronzer comes out, we switch into Rukia and chip away at it with Bite, before switching over to Yoruichi against the Toxicroak, which we take down using Wing Attack and Fly. From there, we go to release Chad and Ikaku, but after Ikaku tries to cling desperately to life, we instead relegate him to his digital prison forevermore. We then add Ganju and Yumichika to the team and level them up, before returning to Mount Cornet once again, traversing its winding depths and snow-capped peaks and arrive at the summit. There, we're confronted by Mars and Jupiter, who challenge me to battle until Aizen arrives to lend a hand. We lead with Rukia against their Bronzors and go for Razor Leaf, but it does very little damage. After one of the Bronzors sets up Reflect, we decide to switch into Totsuki to go for Surf, doing some damage to the Bronzors and critting Aizen's Munchlax. He then sends out his Infernape, taking out one of the Bronzors as Totsuki finishes the other one. Our opponents send in their Golbats next, and Aizen switches into Roserade while I switch into Ganju, tanking 2 Air Cutters. Roserade goes down to a crit Poison Fang, and Ganju lands a strong Confusion. Aizen sends in Floatzel as Ganju is taken down by Bite, and we then send in Yoruichi to finish one of the Golbats with a crit Wing Attack. Jupiter sends in Skuntank as we go for Fly, while Floatzel is taken out by Night Slash and quickly replaced by Staraptor. Fly does some damage to Skuntank, and Staraptor takes out the other Golbat, after which Mars brings out Perugly. We go for Fly again, which still doesn't do a ton of damage to Skuntank, and Perugly takes down Staraptor. Aizen sends out his Heracross, and as we go for Fly again, the opposing duo immediately takes it out. Fly misses, and Aizen's Infernape comes back out, only to be quickly taken down by Slash, which knocks Aizen out of the fight completely. With his team defeated, it's up to us to finish the fight. Not wanting to switch anyone in at this point, we keep Yoruichi in to finish off the skunk tank before she's taken out by Slash. To finish things off, we send in Rukia, who lands an earthquake that's enough to pull us out of this double battle hell. At this point, Cyrus summons Palkia and Dialga, only for Giratina to appear from the shadows. Cynthia then arrives and informs us we must enter the Distortion World. But first, we need to bury our dead. The loss of Ganju isn't that impactful, but losing a Crobat is like losing a part of me. With our friends gone, we add Yachiru and Ishin to the team, and after leveling everyone up and finalizing some movesets, we're ready to enter the Distortion World to face Cyrus for the final time. I'm always nervous about this fight because I tragically wiped here during my first ever Nuzlocke of Platinum, and my track record against Cyrus hasn't been great ever since, so we approach this final battle with as much care as possible. Everything starts out well enough as Toski hits his Houndoom with Surf, taking it out easily. He then sends out Gyarados, which pushes me to switch into Yumichika on its Earthquake. We land a strong Thunderfang that almost takes him out, but he responds with a powerful Ice Fang of his own. Cyrus heals as we land a Night Slash, and our following Thunderfang is enough to take it out. He then moves on to his Weavile, who will definitely outspeed and likely take out our entire team. We switch into Yachiru to set up a Lucky Chant to protect our party from crits, and she survives just long enough to hit a Strength before she's taken out. We send in Ishin next, who survives a Night Slash and manages to take out Weavile with Brick Break. His Honchkrow is up next, and we go for a Shadow Sneak before it takes us out with Night Slash. We then send in Yumichika and hit a strong Thunderfang. The Honchkrow survives and takes him down as well. Thankfully, Toski's Ice Beam is enough to finish the Honchkrow off, after which the Crobat finally makes its appearance. He goes for a Confuse Ray, and we hit a strong Zen Headbutt, after which Crobat responds with a Cross Poison. Incredibly, Toski survives and breaks out of confusion to finish the fight. With Cyrus defeated, it's time to face Giratina. Luckily, this fight goes well as we get the freeze with Ice Beam, making this a pretty easy victory. With Giratina defeated, we return to the cruel reality of the real world, exiting the Send-Off Spring, and releasing our fallen friends, to add Ryukin, Masaki, and Momo to the team. With Team Galactic finally out of the way, we then head to Professor Rowan's lab to show him that we're not dead, after which it's time to head to Sunyshore City for the final gym badge. Volkner is no problem, as we're once again able to sweep an entire gym with Rukia.
That last errant fighter were the enemy! Oh? What happened?
And with all 8 gym badges in our possession, it's time to go through Victory Road. Sinnoh's Victory Road can be scary, but thankfully we make it through without any losses and arrive at the Pokemon League, where we level everyone up to the final level cap. Before we can take on the Elite Four, however, Aizen challenges me one last time. Although our team is at a much higher level than his, he still has some strong Pokemon in his team that make me a little worried as we start the fight. Toski takes out his Staraptor with Ice Beam, and he sends in Roserade, who goes down to the same. He then sends in Infernape, but luckily he only goes for Focus Blast and misses, so we're able to take him out with Waterfall and Surf. He then sends in Heracross, and we go for Zen Headbutt, while he lands a strong close combat, before we finish him off with a Surf. Floatzel is next, and so we switch into Orihime to tank a Crunch, actually getting the poison with Poison Point in the process. Though he lands an Ice Fang, we take him down easily with Giga Drain. Finally, he sends out Snorlax. We go for a Giga Drain, and he lands a Body Slam which paralyzes me, but we decide to stay in and tank another Body Slam before hitting a Sludge Bomb that almost takes him out. We then switch over to Rukia and finish him off with Earthquake. With Aizen finally defeated, it's time to face the Elite Four. With the end in sight, let's take a look at the final team. Rukia the Torterra, our tanky girl who's been with us since the very beginning. She's definitely the cornerstone of this team, and we would have never been able to make it here without her. Orihime the Roserade, our other early game veteran, whose high special attack is always reassuring. Toski the Golduck, our mixed attacker whose diverse moveset will give us a fighting chance. Ryukin the Noctowl, he's here, I guess. Masaki the Azumarill, she's here too, I mean, sure. Momo the Houndoom.
I'm just grateful to have fire and dark coverage, you have no goddamn idea.
There are certainly a few stinkers here, but let's see if our team has what it takes to come out on top. First up is Aaron, who really isn't much of an issue due to the level cap. We sweep most of his team with Momo, and then switch into Rukia to take down his Drapion with Earthquake. Next is Bertha, who also isn't much of a threat to our team. We start with Orihime and take out her Whiscash with Giga Drain, before switching into Tatsuki against her Gliscor and sweeping the rest of her team. The third member of Sinnoh's Elite Four, Flint, is next, and he's the first one that actually scares me, as 2 of my teammates are grass types. I start with Totski and quickly take out his Houndoom, Infernape, and Rapidash, but given his Magmortar knows Thunderbolt, we actually pivot into Rukia, who uses her immunity to avoid any damage. We then outspeed to get the KO with Earthquake. We trust in Rukia enough to stay in against the Flareon and easily finish him with Earthquake. Finally, it's time to face Lucian. We don't really have an answer for him, but as there's no turning back now, we just go in, leading with Momo against his Mr. Mime and taking him out with Dark Pulse. Gallade comes out, and we switch into Rukia, who tanks some damage, including a nasty crit Psycho Cut, before ultimately taking him out with 2 Earthquakes. When Espeon comes out, we switch back into Momo on a Psychic, and also tank a Signal Beam before ending him with Dark Pulse. He then brings in Bronzong, who we take down with a crit Flamethrower, before finally sending in his Alakazam. Knowing full well how strong this Pokemon is, at this point all hope seems lost. However, we have one play that just might work. We decide to switch into Ryuken and thankfully avoid a Focus Blast, which puts us into position to tank a Psychic and put him to sleep with Hypnosis. We then switch into Totski and take him out with Waterfall. Against all odds, the Noctowl came in clutch. With the main Elite Four defeated, it's time to face the champion Cynthia. Considering her team is famous for being difficult even when you've prepared for it and can use healing items, I think it's fair to say that me and my Ragtag team are a little worried, but nevertheless, we face her with our heads held high. We lead with Rukia against her Spiritomb, and tank a Silver Wind before taking it down with Earthquake. She then sends out Togekiss, and we switch into Ryuken, who is unfortunately immediately taken out by a crit Shockwave. In response, we send out Misaki, and though we do some damage, she's also taken down by Aura Sphere. Bringing out Totski, we're able to take down Togekiss after several Ice Beams, and she then sends out Roserade. We decide to stay in, which pays off when I get a crit Ice Beam, paving the way for her ace Garchomp to come in. This Pokemon is one that Nuzlockers have nightmares about, but somehow, by the grace of God, she misses Dragon Rush, and we take her down with an Ice Beam. She then sends out Lucario, who takes Totski out with Extreme Speed, but we quickly return the favor with Momo's Flamethrower. Finally, she sends out Milotic, and rather than switch, we decide to stay in and chip away at it with Thunderfangs, as long as Momo is able. Although Momo goes down in the process, the bravery she displays spurs Orihime on, and she comes in to take the Milotic out with a Petal Dance, ending the fight and earning us the title of Sinnoh Champion. With that, we've beaten the Nuzlocke, and have once again barely survived a champion fight. I hope this doesn't become a trend for me. Overall, I really enjoyed this challenge, and the way it added a bit more difficulty to the standard hardcore Nuzlocke. As I said at the beginning of the video, I could have played this challenge with harsher restrictions, but I was generally happy with the challenge level this time around. While I could have been a little more strategic with encounters, and made a few less misplays, I think we did a good job overall on this run, and I'm looking forward to the next one. I feel like there's a lot of potential with the Sequencelocke, so please let us know if you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to give it a like, and consider subscribing, as Andrew and I continue to play different Nuzlocke challenges. We also play ROM hacks, make rankings and tier lists, and just generally try to make fun Pokemon content, so we hope you'll stick around. With that said, thank you all for watching, and as always, stay phenomenal.